Science has always aspired to be the neutral one. It is or it isn't. Science place is not to choose sides. Do you understand? It is not the place of science to choose sides. Science reports on what has been observed. Do you get it? So it is not the place of a therapist to say that,
tell
well,
you exactly like
you
what
believe
to
you are
do.
a man,
Yes.
and so I support you, because what they are saying you should do in the hospitals is support them. But at the same time, I can't also reject you. Does it make sense?
But you pay them to listen to you and to advise you, like,
And
okay,
to help you through
yes, to
your
help you
conundrums,
through,
but
yes.
you have to uncover it yourself. A therapist is
Because
it's
if
not the place of a
something
therapist.
happens to you and then you say, okay, my therapist is the one who actually supported me and encouraged
Yes,
me to go
to
through.
go and get a surgery, and then I
Yes,
get a
and now
surgery,
I
and now I
regret.
regret it. So is your therapist going to prison or not? So yes, as I was saying, somebody says, "Oh no, I'm actually," because there's someone who says that they're a dragon. There's some guy like that who says he's a dragon and he has
Oh,
been
I
doing.
had someone say they want to be referred as a cat.
Yes. So then, how do you go about that? Do you get it?
Yeah.
Because there's no stopping. But and like I was saying to you, if this gender binary that these people are saying is occurring, if it were not true, if it didn't work, most of our scientific research would have been in the toilet.
True.
Because most of the research we do it and ask, what is the impact of this on women? What's the impact of this on men? What's the impact of this on young women, on young men, old men, old women, old men, old men? And then we contrast all those things. And that gives us a lot of data and a lot of information and a lot of knowledge as to how to treat certain diseases.
So let's say I can see when I'm walking, I see a cat right on the road. Now I can't just assume like, okay, the features are showing me that this is a cat.
But you can't assume
But
that
I
it's
can't
a cat.
assume anymore that this is a cat.
You have to ask
I
it.
have to ask like, okay, hey, are you a cat or a dog or a fish? Like,
But here's the
how
trick.
do you?
When you bring that argument, what these guys tell you is that, can it cry? Does it have, what did it say?
But someone is being referred as a cat.
Yes. So if a human being can say I'm a cat and that human being can cry, what is an actual cat doesn't cry? It means that crying is not the difference between a cat and a human being. It's just about how you feel.
Because nowadays, if someone comes to the hospital, you have to ask them like,
Okay.
how do I refer you as? Are you
And
a
that's the-
she,
that's the
he,
pronoun,
they, them? Like, how do you want me to
And then
refer
they
you
say,
before you go on with anything else?
Yes.
You see, so they say, okay, me, I want to be referred as them. Then you have to go ahead and call them them. It doesn't matter how you see them. Like you see clearly this is a lady, or clearly this is a guy.
But they
No,
don't
you
subscribe to
forget
the
about
fact that they are men and they are women.
Yes.
And so just refer to them as them.
Yeah,
Okay, so
exactly.
do them people who are referred to as them, do them people have menstruation?
Some of them do.
Then what's so if I decide to classify you as a woman, and then generally an overwhelming number of women have menstruation, and I do research based on that, and I find results and I apply it to you and it works, what is your problem? Do you understand? Because refer to me as them. Okay, if anyone comes to the emergency room, right, with stomach pain, and the stomach pain is maybe centralized, first thing you think about is, if it's localized, I mean, around the umbilicus and all that, well, you can think about appendicitis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if the person comes and is a man and it's not appendicitis, you start thinking about other conditions.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Does he have some sort
But
of
you won't think
perforation?
on the way of
But you not think of ovarian cyst rupture.
Yes.
You will not think of that.
You won't think maybe they're having cramps, maybe they're having ovarian cysts.
Yes.
You won't think like that because
But because
the person
is
is
a male.
presenting
It's a
themselves
male.
as a male.
But if it's a woman that comes to you,
You
then
will think
you factor in those things.
Yes.
So since you
Exactly.
don't want me to classify these two, because one has period that is monthly, one doesn't. How do I classify it? Since you don't want me to, they say you don't want me to presume. How do I classify it? And the way these people try to get around it is that gender and sex are different.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
So let's just continue with Jordan Peterson's video.
These guidelines first read like a manual of indoctrination written by Marxist ideologues, and second, like a document designed to undermine and destroy the practice of therapy itself. But at an alarming rate, these guidelines have transformed themselves into punitive laws governing what a psychologist or counselor may say and think in relation to their clients. Let me make myself perfectly clear. Speaking as a professional, whether in America, Britain, or anywhere, it is not the place of a therapist to affirm or conversely to deny the identity of anyone.
Exactly.
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. Science has, for as long as history can predict, science has always aspired to be the neutral one. It is or it isn't. Science place is not to choose sides. You understand? It is not the place of science to choose sides. Science reports on what has been observed. Do you get it? So it is not the place of a therapist, to
therapist
say
to
that,
tell
well,
you
you
exactly,
you,
like,
you
what
believe
to
you're a
do.
man,
Yes.
and so I support you, because what they are saying you should do in the hospitals is support them. But at the same time, I can't also reject you. Does it make sense?
But you pay them to listen to you and to advise you, like,
And
okay,
to
I
help you
think-
through your
yes, to help
your
you
conundrums,
through,
but
yes.
you have to uncover it yourself. A therapist is
Because
it's
if
not the place of a
something
therapist.
happens to you and then you say, okay, my therapist is the one who actually supported me and encouraged
Yes,
me to go
to
through.
go and get a surgery, and then I
Yes,
get a
and now
surgery,
I
and now I
regret.
regret it. So is your therapist going to prison or not?
That's a
Do you
$1
understand?
million
So as a
question.
therapist, it is not your place to say I support you or I'm against you, but it is your place to ask questions. And these guidelines, you know what these guidelines have done? These guidelines have now come and they said, well, you can't ask this question. You can't ask that question. You can't ask the person to explain to you what they feel about their gender identity, because you cause them to have suicidal ideation,
But
which is
also
not true.
therapists, like, before you advise someone on what to do, is that the same advice you would follow? Like, would you, like, as a therapist, advise maybe your family members or your kids the same advice you're giving to someone else's
That's the
kid?
thing. First of all, it is actually not the place of a therapist to advise you, like, be a good person or be a bad person. Actually, it's not the place of a therapist. It is the place of a therapist to help you through your thoughts, to help you organize your thoughts and find solutions to your problems. A therapist is not supposed to give you the solution to your problems, because if they are to give you what they believe is the solution, just like you just said, number one, that might be the wrong answer. Number two, if it may be the correct answer, but it might not stick. For example, a lady feels like she's a guy, and the therapist says, no, you are a lady. Well, that might be the correct answer. However, because of the way it was forced onto her, she rejects that her whole life. And at the end of the day, just spins into something else. So a therapist's place is to help you through your ideas and your thoughts, and to help you organize them in a way that makes sense to you, and in a way that you can unravel and solve. You get it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Whom they admit into their care. People come to see a therapist often after long and painful deliberation because they are suffering, confused, or both. The job of that therapist is to listen, to question, and to proceed with due caution, neither providing cheap advice and thereby stealing their clients' successes or heaping failure upon them, nor assuming special knowledge of the proper outcome for a given individual. There is simply no way I would ever tell a 15-year-old adolescent that she is absolutely correct if sometimes she feels more masculine than feminine, however that feeling might emerge, and that if she feels that surgery is the answer, then recommend hormones that day. I would instead spend many weeks, even perhaps many months or years, listening to her unwrap her story.
This is the guideline. The
And
guideline is
I feel with this, the internet has really played a major part in it.
Of course.
Because people nowadays, they're just saying anyone can just come and say, okay, I don't feel like a lady anymore, I want to be a guy.
And then they
You see,
encourage others.
so they confuse the kids, like all the children, like all the children under 18 years old, they get confused with this fact, like, oh, okay, so I can do whatever I want
And
at this
they're
point.
actually
So,
looking
yes,
to do the opposite of what their parents
yes,
expect
some
them to
people
do.
just
So they don't even
want
feel
to
like
do
that, they
because
just
I want to explore. Like, I
Exactly.
want to feel like, how do I feel like in a guy's body? You see, how will I feel in like, because like ladies know, okay, guys, they don't go through this, they don't go
But
through.
they don't understand the
You see,
permanence
they
of
don't
it.
understand the
They
like
don't understand the repercussions. Because
exactly.
they're 13 years old, 15 years old.
So like, okay, I want to explore because I can explore. Like everyone makes their own choices. So if you give a 13-year-old a choice, like you tell a 13-year-old, like you decide every time in your life, they'll choose to always go to Disney like every day. They don't want to go to school.
Exactly.
Because it's
And
that's
there are
how
parents.
they feel. Like
there
they
are
feel
actually parents who say
it's better like that.
this kid, 10 years old, doesn't want to go to school. That's fine. Let's listen to the kid. You are damaging your child.
But also we don't have to ignore the fact that it's actually their kid.
So you need to train them. Do you understand?
Yeah,
Yes. So
they're
now
actually responsible of
you are responsible to
raise the kid however they
Yes.
want to raise the kid.
However, now they are then coming to make laws that tell you how to raise your kid. It doesn't end with them and their kids. They say if your kid says, "Mommy, I feel like a boy," and you speak against it, they will leave their children and come to you and say you are doing child abuse.
And that's not fair.
Because I'm not telling you how to raise your kids.
Yes.
And you shouldn't tell me how to raise
It
my
should be
kids
both
either.
ways. You see, so if no one is gonna tell you how to raise your kid, you shouldn't also go and tell them how to raise their kid.
And this is guidelines.
Yeah.
Do you know that like medical guidelines say if a kid is 15 years old and the kid feels, hey, I actually feel like a guy, on that day when they say it, you can give hormone blockers that same day. And interestingly, in I think Washington, without the parents' knowledge, did you know? The father and mother doesn't know. You can give the kids pills for these kinds of things. Is that fair?
Okay, it's becoming
Is it
hard
fair?
and hard, you know.
It's not fair. It's not right. It doesn't even make sense. You know?
But if the guidelines say, what more can you do?
And the guidelines came because these people went directly to them and said, if you don't do it, you are anti-transgender. And so what they did was, okay, we have to give in. Because if we hold our ground, they will say we are bad and they will cancel us. Do you get it? So therefore, let's just give in to them. Let's just give in to them. And then they made it guideline. And the guideline became what? Laws. That's what he's talking about. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense.
Using caution as my watchword and help her to come to some thorough and well-developed understanding of both her autobiography.
So I have a child who comes to me and the child says, sometimes I feel masculine. As a therapist, it is not my place to say, that's an abomination. Neither is it my place to say, well, maybe you are a man. No, it is my place to ask questions. And the questions can range from what kinds of feelings? How often do you have these feelings? When exactly do you have these feelings? Is it when you are around the guys or when the girls are telling you you don't look beautiful and as a result you feel masculine? When exactly? I need to ask these questions to try and pry. Do you understand? And understand. And I'm not supposed to assume that I am the expert, you know, in terms of how you feel. You know how you feel. So
you need to know
I need to
what's
listen
really
to how you're
triggered
feeling.
that feeling, like,
Do you get
okay,
it?
I'm a
Yes.
man right
and,
now.
And just like he said, it is not the expert's position to give, number one, cheap advice or to you know, you give the person advice, you say, do this, do that. They do it and they succeed. And you say, it's because of me you succeeded. Or you give them wrong advice, they do it, and then you pile upon them failures. None of that is your duty. Your duty is to listen and ask questions to understand. And as you're doing that, you are helping them organize their thoughts. That's the most important thing.
History and her destiny, to some thorough and well-developed understanding of both her autobiographical history and her destiny. That is not affirmation, and neither is it denial. How could I possibly dare to do either when someone has come to me because they are mixed up and desperate, a state of twinned experience indicating a profound confusion about identity itself? Radical new guidelines. I am focusing on the American Psychological Association, APA, because it is the body charged with establishing the norms and ideals for clinical practice in the most populous democracy on earth. Principles that will and are spread around the West more broadly, including in Britain. Some of their guidelines are appalling enough to deserve dissection. Guideline 1. Psychologists understand that gender is a non-binary construct that allows for a range of gender identities and that a person's gender identity may not align with sex assigned at birth. I don't understand this radical postmodern definition of gender, one that rests on a person's deeply felt or inherent sense of being one sex over another, regardless of biology. Psychologically, it is indisputably the case that a non-trivial proportion of males have a feminine temperament, which essentially means that they experience higher levels of negative emotion, such as anxiety and the analogs of pain, grief, frustration, disappointment, depression, and are more agreeable, compassionate, polite than typical males. And equally true that a non-trivial proportion of females have a masculine temperament. But this does not change how, objectively, professionals should measure a person's gender. Psychologists once cared if measurement followed standard practices of validity and reliability. Try reading, for example, a document published by the APA.
This is the thing. Standard practices of validity and reliability. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to tell me someone who has a penis produces sperm, will have a deep voice after adolescence, has much facial hair than the average female, and all those things, it's not a male, then who is a man?
Because now they're saying the natural sex and gender, they're not the same. You're born male, but then your gender can be something else.
You were reading those articles.
Yes.
And I asked you, what is gender? According to what they wrote, what was the definition of gender? The only thing they said is gender is how is defined by how the person feels.
How the person
They
feels.
never said what exactly gender is.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. If there is no standard, how do we operate? Because that guideline says psychologists understand that gender ranges from what and may not align with a person's
natural sex.
birth assigned
Yes.
sex at birth.
Yes.
What is gender? They all don't have an answer. What is gender? So if someone's sex is male, that's what you call a man. If someone's gender is female, what do you call that? Because you just told me gender and sex are different. Meaning, if sex is male,
So
that's
your
a man.
sex can be male, but then your gender
Should be something else. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't. Don't bring it to male and female anymore. Because you just told me they are not the same. And if they are not the same, then it's something else. So what is it? How is it different from sex?
you place yourself wherever you want to be. Do
So-
you want
so
to be
where? You place yourself
transgender?
where?
You want to be
No,
a
that's
lesbian?
the question. You see, you place yourself on some sort of scale.
Yes.
What is that scale? That's what I'm asking. What is that?
To measure yourself.
Yeah, what is the scale? Like if I tell you, with sex, male, female, you choose either. The scale
No,
you are
according to
putting
them-
yourself on is male or female.
No. That's not the point.
So what is the?
Sex
Mhm.
is when you're born. Doctors say like, okay, this child is male because of the biology, and then they say, okay, this child is female because of biology too. So that's natural sex. Like
And
that's
with
the
gender,
sex.
and
But
with
with
gender, what does gender measure?
gender, you yourself, like
Because
your own emotions, like how you feel. Like I know my sex is
what are you
female,
feeling? What
but
exactly?
I feel male.
What is it that you're feeling that is making you male? What exactly is that? Because
So
with sex,
we need
what
to
we're yes,
determine what
with sex,
exactly
what
that
we're
is.
measuring is the person's genitalia, the person's chromosomes, the
Yes.
person's hormones.
Hormones,
What are
yes.
you measuring? What
Because
are you measuring?
we with gender, we don't look the chromosomes, we don't
What do
look,
we look at?
we don't look the hormones.
Yes, what
We
do we
don't
look
look
at?
all that.
Instead, what do we look at?
Feelings.
What feelings exactly? What are those
Like
feelings?
what my mind is
How do we
telling me.
measure them?
Like, okay, I feel, I feel like I should be muscular a little bit. So I'm male today.
There are a lot of
You know?
females who are muscular.
And I've seen that people
doesn't make
nowadays,
you
they
male.
say, okay, today I'm a lesbian, tomorrow they become, okay, no, I don't feel like a lesbian anymore. I want to go back.
And now that is sexual orientation. Do you understand?
So can you
These are two
imagine the
different things.
people who have decided, like, okay, I'm a transgender right now. Then tomorrow they wake up and say, no, I don't feel right. So I want to go back. So do they go back and,
That's-
redo the surgery or what? Because
I have no idea. There's a guy called Andrew Tate, right? You know what he said?
Mhm.
They're having a podcast. And he says, okay, so for the rest of this podcast, number one, I identify as a female. Because it's allowed, right? It's allowed, is it not?
Yes.
I identify as a female. Number one, I do. Number two, you can't tell me that I don't identify as a female. And if I identify as a female, I don't have to change anything about myself. Because I can have beard, because they say a female is not necessarily someone who doesn't have beard, right?
Mhm.
I can have muscles, I can have a penis, because now they said females can also have penis.
Mhm.
So I'm a female. I have everything I have right now. I'm a female, right? Now I'm a lesbian. What does it mean? It means I'm into women. So I don't have to change who I'm sleeping with or who I'm attracted to. I don't have to change my physical appearance. I don't have to change anything about myself. But I'm a female who sleeps with women, and I don't change anything about myself, and I'm considered a woman. And as a result of that, all the considerations, like if I go to a hospital and then they are asking for stomach pain, they have to consider menstrual cramps.
But biologically, you're not.
No,
you're
I'm
not,
a female.
You're
Please,
not
please.
female.
I'm a female. Because when you write, a 28-year-old female came into the hospital. Imagine
Yes,
you write that
exactly.
and you submit it. The thing your attendant will ask you is, did you do pregnancy test? Oh no, why didn't you do pregnancy test? Because he cannot give birth. What do you mean he? Now you're in trouble. They cancel you. Oh, because she cannot give birth. Is she barren? No. Have you tested for it? No. Why haven't you tested for it? Because she doesn't look like she needs it. Why? Because she has a penis. Who told you? You have to test for what is it? What did they call it? The hormone, is it BCG or whatever they call it? The urine one.
HCG.
Yes, HCG. BCG is the vaccine. Do you understand?
Yeah.
What world are we living in? What kind of world are we living in? Come on.
Self in 2014,
And-
where you will learn that
In 2014, they themselves, the APA themselves, published stuff that was talking about doing things objectively, having a standard for stuff. Then these people went and shouted at them. Then they changed it and said, oh, we understand that.
a psychologist worthy of his salt is obliged to utilize constructs, i.e., terms such as gender, in a technically appropriate manner. This means, at the very least, that fundamental attributes must be measurable and measured properly. But all
Do you get it?
Yeah.
The things that define gender should be measurable and measured properly. Meaning that that's the beauty of science. If I have the exact equipment you had and the exact or not even the exact but similar population you studied, I should be able to replicate the results of your experiments. So whenever we do research and you publish, somebody else somewhere should be able to use the method you used and should be able to use the population you used to get the same results.
Exactly.
So how they do it is because in this world there are people who have 6 fingers, 8 fingers. Why are those ones not necessarily? Oh, a human being has 8 fingers because those ones are once in a population. And when we identify them, we're like, oh, in every 1,000 people, there's one person with
Who
a 6th
has
finger.
a sixth
So if I go in my hometown
Mhm.
and check 1,000 people, I should find someone with that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's measurable, it's reliable. Even though that's not the norm, it still is there.
Yeah, it is.
Now, when we take this gender stuff and we're like, how do you know this person is a male? All around the world, we look at something we call chromosomes, something we call genitalia, hormones,
Hormones,
etc.,
yeah.
etc. Someone somewhere measures the same thing in another human being, will find the same thing. That's science. But this is,
So basically,
I
with
think-
science, if someone has XX, we are just referring the person to female. Like
yes,
basically,
female means you have XX.
yes.
That's what we're trying to
male.
say.
When a person has
you understand?
XY, we
Yes,
categorize the person as a male.
male. And
But then
the reason,
now we have to ignore
you
all
know,
those.
you know why we do that?
Mhm.
For ease of communication and for ease of classification.
Mhm.
So if I say this person is female, I'm not saying because I've checked the person's chromosomes. I'm saying it because of the physical attributes that are related to the XX chromosome.
Mhm.
So if someone has XX chromosomes, the XX chromosomes will decode certain genetic material that will result in a person having curvy body, having certain things. So
Exactly.
you can have people who have curvy body,
Yeah.
have even breast.
Mhm.
And when the breasts are enlarged more than normal, for example, you are XY, but your breasts are getting as big as someone who has XX, that's a condition called gynecomastia.
Mhm.
And sometimes even breast milk comes out of it.
Mm.
And that is not normal. Do you understand? So it helps us.
Because it could be breast cancer.
Thank you. It helps us tell, oh, no, this person is not supposed to be having this.
Yes.
But since they have it, let's find out why.
Why? Let's find out.
Does it make
why.
sense?
Yeah.
So for ease of classification and all these identifications, we say when a person has a curvy body, has these things, we say this person is a female.
Mhm.
We're actually trying to say the person has XX chromosomes. But I can't be walking around saying that person is XX chromosomes. Do you understand? So if the person looks female, but the person is actually male, and so I say, oh, this lady, and then the person tells me, oh no, I'm not a lady, I'm a guy. The person has XY chromosomes, so the person corrects me. Then I understand, oh, this person is a guy.
Yes.
However, they don't look like a guy. So there may be something wrong with a person, right? Or just that the strength of the Y chromosome producing certain things fail to occur.
Yes.
That is something wrong with you. I'm not saying because of that you are an outcast of society, but it's something that is not as everyone has, which that definitely makes you unique. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't also mean that you are a woman.
Mhm.
Does it make sense? So if I see someone muscular sitting there like this, and the person hasn't gone to a gym gone to the gym in a day in their life, and they look like this, Adolphus, yes, and then they have the drop voice and deep voice and everything. What's going on? That's a man. The person has beard. That's a man. No, I'm a lady. The person has XX chromosome but has these things. Something is wrong with the person. Is what I'm saying making sense?
Yeah.
That's how we measure and that's how we know. You know, and when I say something is wrong with the person, I don't mean no, you are less than all of us. There's nothing like the person doesn't have less value than us as people who may not have the condition they have, but it's a condition that needs to be recognized. And then again, we revert back to let's research. Does it have an impact on their quality of life? If it doesn't, then we can come out and say there are some women who look like this and it doesn't really have an impact on their quality of life. Then we keep researching. Why is it different?
Because we also have intersex.
Yes. So we have to keep researching. Why is it different? Instead of saying it is so and accept it, ask, why is it different? You don't think it's worth asking, why are we different? Why are these people not the same as the ones who have the same chromosomes?
Yes.
Or why do these people have different chromosomes from that? These are questions that are worth asking, but these people are not given the chance for that. That's my main beef with them.
It's so sad.
You know? It's really annoying. But anyway, let's we continue?
Yes.
Okay, let's continue.
That goes out the window when we're discussing them. This means at the very least that fundamental attributes must be measurable and measured properly. But all that goes out the window when we're discussing the magic of gender now, which is entirely subjectively defined, even though that insistence indubitably contravenes the earlier standards. But feelings über alles, folks, and it's no joke, particularly if you're 15 and have undergone surgery that makes you incapable of reproducing, often to foster someone else's sense of moral superiority or sense of self-attributed compassion a word that increasingly makes me shudder when I encounter it. New doctrines. Psychologists are also now adopting the simple-minded and anything but revolutionary doctrine of intersectionality without question. And what is that doctrine? Nothing more than the claim that human beings are characterized by identities that span multiple dimensions. Any given person has a race, ethnicity, sex, temperament, 5 dimensions there alone, intelligence level, etc. We've known that forever. It's only became a hot cultural item since fools noted the obvious fact that minority status might be additive or multiplicative. I hate to even point out, given that anyone with any sense whatsoever also knew without any.
So basically, this is really funny. Everybody knows that if you're an individual, right? You may belong to a particular, for example, you belong to a tribe, right? But you also have a nuclear family, right? You also have a vicinity where you stay. That's also a group of people. You may not come from the same place as those people, but you're living in the same area.
Yeah.
That makes you you're part of a certain kind of group. Right now, you are also part of the group of individuals who had their medical education outside your country. So you join another group,
Yes.
not necessarily from the same country. Now, you're also part of the group of individuals who live in a different country. That's also another group. So when it comes to identity, and you're also a lady, that's also a different one. So when it comes to identity, there are a lot of things that come into play. Do you understand? Who are you? I'm a man. Who are you? I'm a doctor. Who are you? I'm an African. Who are you? I'm a Ghanaian.
Exactly.
There are
Yeah.
a lot of things that describe or that define who you are. Basically, that's what he's saying. We knew this long ago. So what are you saying? We knew this. But it's now like they are making it look like it's revolutionary. We just came up with it.
Statistical training that it was. I hate to even point out, given that anyone with any sense whatsoever also knew without any statistical training that it was possible to be of Latino extraction, say, or even Latin X, to use that absurd, demeaning, and patronizing term, and female simultaneously. One cannot question this, however, without fear of being ostracized by one's colleagues. Note the chilling wording of Guideline 7. Psychologists understand the need to promote social change that reduces the negative effects of stigma on the health and well-being of TGNC people. In summary, if you're not an activist and one of our activists, then you better be watching over your shoulder. So what should govern my behavior as a therapist? And
You get it, right? It's like, if you are not for us, automatically you're against us.
Yeah.
You don't need to explain yourself. We will just go and
Like, we don't care
publicize it
about
for
your
you.
beliefs. We don't care about
All we
your
care about
facts.
is that you care about
Yeah,
us. And then
yeah. You have to
not
accept
just
us.
care about us, but
Like-
not just even accept us, but you approve and you are part of us. Does it make sense to you?
Oh.
It doesn't make any sense.
your expectations as a client, the answer to that
So then
is
what should we do? As
whatever the
doctors?
activists deem a priority at their whim. And remember that in court, folks. Active malevolence.
So then, as a doctor, you were saying that patient comes. What should I call you, right? She. Okay. 25-year-old female. The next day they come. Okay, so take her to the room. Oh my God. Did you just call me a she? Yeah, last time you told me to call you a she. No, I'm a he now. What?
Because my feelings have changed. So now I just want to be a he.
So
You see? And even those patients who come unconscious, so you don't know where to place them because they can't talk for themselves. Most of them come without family members, so they're just alone and they're unconscious. So you wonder, like, where should I place this person? I can clearly see that this person is a she, but then should I say, okay, a female came at this time unconscious, or should I say a person, or should I say a patient? Like I feel like you just go with the patient.
That's what he's saying. He said
Like just
that's
go with the
what you
patient.
just
You
said is
see?
exactly what he said. What should they do? Well, do whatever they want at any time they want it.
Yeah,
Do everything at
because
their whim.
if the person wakes up and then they say no, why did you say she? Because I'm a he, then you are in a big trouble.
It doesn't make any sense.
So you have to say a patient came at this time
And
unconscious.
what these people are doing is they are mixing, they are trying to mix themselves and join themselves to the sexual orientation people.
Mhm.
So just as you were even explaining, you are even confused. Which one is gender? Which one is sexual orientation? They've tried to mix it such that if you speak against them, they will say you're speaking against sexual orientation people. If you speak against these sexual orientation guys, they will say you're
It's
against
a very
these.
thin line, you know. So you don't know where to place.
Because they call it LGBT. They put the T in there. But transgender is not a sexual orientation. Is it? Because who is a lesbian?
Person who likes, like, I'm a female and I like female.
Who is a transgender?
Transgender, I'm a female, I change to a male. I'm a male, I change to a female.
But it doesn't, what you just said, this male change to female, female change to male, doesn't tell us whether or not the person is interested in females or males.
Then you come and become, I'm a transgender female who likes females.
So they kind of quote unquote
Then
join.
we put you as a transgender lesbian.
Yes, so they join with the sexual orientation guys, and when you speak against one, you've spoken against the other. Does it make sense? So imagine you are a lesbian, but then you don't agree to transgender. What happens?
I feel like all these things, it's just confusing.